Well, golf fans, Big D ready as we hit the 125th U.S. Open at Oakmont, which will be hosting its 10th U.S. Open this week on the Big D podcast. Before bringing Tom, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page where we may bring out the 3-iron, the hybrid, the 7-wood, or the driver this week. Also, check out the Big D podcast, Spotify, Apple. So, joining me, the only guy who probably wanted Nottingham Forest to reach the Champions League this year, that would be Tom. So, Tom, sorry about your EPL team playing in the what are you going to be this year? Conference League?
Yeah, we're currently in the Conference League, which you've just won. So, I mean, we've got a chance of doing that. But also, there's a rumour that Crystal Palace might get kicked out of the Europa League because their owner owns both Crystal Palace and Lyon. So, if they can't figure out that situation, then Nottingham Forest get bumped up to the Europa League. But it looks like we're going to be playing the Conference League next year, all because we lost to Chelsea on the final game of the season at home at the City Ground. So, I'm not bitter about it or anything, Dylan. I've got over it now, and I'm willing to talk to you, despite the fact that your team knocked us out of what would have been a dream situation. So, ready to talk US Open golf rather than football. I've parked football in my brain for the next kind of 3 or 4 months. So,
yeah. Hey, you know what? Villa won the Conference League in 23. Chelsea won in 25. Maybe Forest will win in 26.
Yeah, who knows? Let's hope so, eh?
So, obviously, Oakmont, storied venue. This will be the 10th U.S. Open at Oakmont. Is there one word to describe Oakmont to anyone?
Tough. Tough, and I would rough. I guess we could use rhyming words. Just difficult. I don't know if it's going to be quite as difficult as it has been in the past, Dylan. I think we might get a slightly easier version of it. We've got like in 2007, we obviously had, 5 over par 1. And then in 2016, Dustin Johnson wins it at 4 under. But there was still only 4 players under par in 2016. And they were, 4 under and 1 under, respectively. So it is going to be a tough test. I'm sure we'll come on to why as we go on through this podcast, but keen to hear your kind of one-word description for Oakmont as well.
Beast.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when Oakmont hosts an Open, whether it's 1927, 2025, or long after we're gone. Oakmont is the toughest test in golf. It's long, it's narrow, they're bunkers. By the way, don't hit the ball in the church pew bunkers because your next shot's going to be hacking out of the beach. The rough, not fun. And then if you somehow get the ball on the green, maybe the fastest greens in championship golf.
Yeah, I think actually you obviously mentioned long there, and it will be slightly longer than it used to be. Like, it's not one that relies on its distance, though, right? Because you can take less than driver off the tee. I think Phil Mickelson talked about it in 2016 how he likes the fact that he could hit, hybrids and 3-woods. But it's the fact that you have to take those clubs off the tee to stay in play and avoid this rough that makes those holes longer. Like, just by the scorecard, it's not like an absolute beast or anything, right? It's just the conditions you have to play it in, the way you have to plot round, and this rough that they've grown specifically for this event this year. And they've put like new strands of grass in. It's like a hybrid breed of grass just to make it difficult. All the members want it to be really hard and put on a show. So I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be a great tournament. I really like the US Open. The PGA Championship's kind of tried to sort of replicate what the US Open does as well. So looking forward to seeing what we get there.
Yeah, I mean, looking at recent Oakmont champs, obviously Jack in 62, Johnny Miller in 73, Larry Nelson in 83, Ernie in 94, Arnold Cabrera 2007, and Dustin Johnson 2016. Variety of guys. I mean, some big hitters, some more precision guys. So, does power matter at Oakmont, or could maybe a shorter hitter, whether it be a Colin Morikawa, succeed.
Yeah, I think it's that classic thing, then, isn't it? Like you'd always rather be longer than not. I think it makes life just easier. So distance is always going to be an advantage, even on the shorter hole, of course, where you don't need it, just because of what you can take off the tee. And I think ultimately, like you think about Angel Cabrera, you think about Dustin Johnson, both relatively decent hitters, and two most recent Oakmont. Dustin Johnson, obviously one of the longer guys back then. Cabrera certainly could move the ball. But you're always going to get someone that kind of finish. You're going to get a surprise name. Like Nicholas Fast was 7 over and in fourth place in 2007. I think he was actually a reasonably long hitter. But then you kind of got like Scott Piercy was second in 2016. Daniel Summerhays was inside the top 10. Like you're going to get players that can plot their way around. Jason Duffner finished 8th that year in Oakmont as well. Like you're going to get the plotters, Jerry Kelly, Nick Doherty were both 7th. Like you're going to get just someone that's going to get around through accuracy. But I think ultimately, if it was a decision between Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele in terms of like what skill set I want, I probably want Schauffele knowing that he can give it a bit more off the tee. But we'll talk about those two players probably a bit more specifically as we go on, like whether I'd want to pick either of them right now. But like the skill set wise, I'd probably err on the side of longer hitter just because we're talking about in a minute one of the holes specifically. Like just having less club in your hand is going to be massive. But yeah, I think to your point, anyone can kind of get around here. I don't think there's any one skill set that's going to prohibit anyone winning. I would just like the distance in hand.
Yeah, and also, I mean, not just some of these short holes, because 17 could be reachable. I think the hole fives are going to be ridiculously long. What is it? 4 and what's the other one? 12 and 13 will be long. So just having the ability to get the ball in play and maybe make birdie or avoid any of the madness where you're hitting the ball in the rough and now you're struggling just to make par.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of really long par fives in there. Like the 5th hole was kind of like 600 yards. The 12th was like 684 at its longest in 2016 and 617 at its shortest. And as you said, like just having those shorter holes that you can go out will be big. But again, some slightly longer holes, 487 yards or 88 yards at its longest. Like they're going to make you work for it. So yeah, really excited for it. A 519 yard, the 15 was the longest he played in 2016 as well. So yeah, like just a variety of holes, and really looking forward to who comes to the fore here. I think like patience is a massive part of US Opens, isn't it? We hear that all the time on kind of commentary, and just having the mental strength as much as anything else could be the deciding factor. So yeah, it's going to be an all-round test. I think all-round is the biggest skill as opposed to any one asset, I think.
Well, I mean, par threes have seemingly gone one or two ways, either really short or really long. And in Oakmont, if anybody's seen videos of the 8th hole there, there won't be any wedges. This isn't the 8th hole in Oakmont. Isn't the 7th at Pebble. These guys are going to be needing. You see that, right?
Yeah. I think I quite like that. As long as it's like just every now and then, you wouldn't want it all the time, right? I think it's a novelty of having this really long. It's like when you have those random par threes that have got bunkers in the middle of the greens and sort of thing. You like to see it once. I mean, I'm trying to think who's in the field is actually going to have to dust off the driver to get there. There's going to be a few, right? That are going to have to actually get a driver out to do it. Probably sort of, I don't know who off the top of my head, but there will be a couple. It's going to be a lot of 3 woods. Going to be some 7 woods. There's going to be some, depending on the conditions, there's going to be maybe some people that can go in there with a very long iron. But it is a real test. And Brian Campbell's probably a prime candidate. Someone's going to have to get the driver out.
Brian Harman,
probably, yeah. I think, but I quite like what I don't like in a in a major is when you've got a par 3. There's no risk and no reward. So you go out there and you just make a par. Like it's a very hard birdie hole, but it's a very easy par hole. I don't like that. Whereas this one is like if you have to work for a par, I quite enjoy that. So view is once a year, don't mind this kind of 290 yard par 3 and having to get the wood out. I think anyone, Dylan, the reason we love golf is that every now and then there's a relatable hole to us mere mortals. I'd have to hit a driver to get there. And I'd be laying up on this par 3, whereas like the pros, it's actually one, it's relatable in the sense that like they're going to have to struggle, but two, marveling at the skill of a professional athlete going at a long par 3 and just kind of making it routine is also quite a fun watch. So I like it. I like what Oakmont has to offer. We got a really good US Open here in 2016. I don't remember 2007 that much. I wasn't as much into golf then. I was kind of 14, I think, at the time. So it wasn't kind of my favourite sport. I was always kind of more into soccer at that time. But 2016, I remember vividly just because Dustin Johnson trying to get over the line for the first time in a major.
Yeah, especially with what happened with DJ at the previous Open when he hit the ball where it looked like he might win it, and then 3-putted from 15 feet at and gave Jordan Spieth an Open.
Yeah, at Chambers Bay, right? I think also, didn't he get a relief at Oakmont this time? Didn't he get moved? Wasn't he able to the stand or something? Temporary restriction?
I think DJ, the same thing that happened to DJ at Oakmont happened to him at Whistling Straits, which kept him out of the playoff with Connor and Bubba.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a funny the third round. Like Lowry was a couple of shots clear going into Sunday. Andrew Landry was in second place, and then it was a tie between sort of Garcia, Johnson, and Lee Westwood. And you would have thought that kind of trio that was early. That was early before kind of like there was a break in play, wasn't there? And in the final round, I think Lowry ended up having like a 4-shot lead going into the actual final round, and Landry and Dustin Johnson were in second place. But you always thought that kind of one of those Garcia, Johnson, Westwood would have come out and make a charge. It didn't quite come to that, apart from DJ, obviously. But yeah, I think we're in for a great tournament. I mean, as I say, Larry was 7 under par and finished on 1 under. And that's a huge tournament.
And you know what? In a way, I think golf needs what happened at Augusta, because we don't want somebody winning the U.S. Open by 8 shots. Maybe the year Tiger won by 15 at Pebble.
Yeah, and again, like you say, like I think like the novelty of Tiger winning by such a large margin is cool once, but people will always remember Tiger winning the US Open on one leg as more than they would him winning one by 15 shots. So, I mean, the old question, Dylan, at the moment, and it's come back to the fore after we had it last season, we're having it again now. Because Rory was so dominant early in the year, right? And I think everyone saw that as an exciting thing, is that we hadn't seen Rory in that way in a while, and then he wins the Grand Slam. But like Scotty Scheffler's now completely destroying golf again. And because it's Scotty Scheffler, we still haven't I don't think and maybe it's different over there because obviously we're different side of the pond, but I don't feel like we celebrate Scotty's success in the same way we do someone like a Rory McIlroy, in the same way we probably did, Bryce and all those sort of things. And I think that's just a little unfair. I think that he doesn't really get the chance to show his character in the same way. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing. I mean, it's a terrible thing for betting. It's awful. We're talking here trying to pick a winner, and it's basically the field versus Scotty Scheffler at the moment. The one difference with these majors, Dylan, especially the US Open, is there's going to be a certain amount of variables. It's going to be tough conditions. It's going to be the weather could come into play, the rough. So that is when Scotty Scheffler's game changes slightly. He's great on these run-of-the-mill PGA Tour events where he can just hit a driver, hit a wedge, and go. But when it gets a little bit more creative, a little bit more testing, not that he won't do it, and I think there's every chance that he wins again this week. But we have seen in the US Open in the last few years, he's got close without really kind of looking like the one that's going to win. So, I mean, first couple of years, he missed 2 of his first 3 cuts in the US Open. Now he's figured it out, 7th, 2nd, and 3rd. But even when he was in the midst of being the best player in the world last year, 41st in the US Open. So I think it's good. I think it brings everybody else up to scratch. I think we're seeing it having an adverse reaction on Rory McIlroy since the Masters. Obviously, just had a massive meltdown at the Canadian Open. And I don't love this kind of talk about the driver and him being upset that the information come out about his driver, and just get on with it. Like, it's not a big deal. Just move on with the driver. I think he's just not playing very well, and he's struggling with the new expectation of playing great and being a Grand Slam champion. And his game's just not there at the moment, right? Like, we don't make excuses for Bryson in the last 2 majors where if he had any sort of iron play. I mean, I probably could have hit Bryson's irons on Sunday and he'd have had a better chance of converting from there because, I wasn't so far long or so wild with them. So, I think it's good overall that Scotty's doing this. And what I want to see now, I mean, Dylan, if we don't pick the winner, is we're potentially going to have 3/4 of the Grand Slam again with Scotty Scheffler, and all of a sudden we're talking about that again, and we're talking about who's the most likely to win a Grand Slam. It is now him. So yeah, I think it's good overall. What about you?
I mean, everyone's going to compare Scotty's dominance to Tiger's dominance in 2000, and it didn't matter. Tiger won an Open by, a U.S. Open by 15, an Open by 8, a Masters by 12. Tiger was almost must-see. Scotty doesn't get me to a TV set on Sunday.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. His personality, it's like, I just play golf.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know if Scotty's quite excited. Everybody remembers what happened when Rory won the Grand Slam in Augusta, but yet people forget the audience in tune to see Scotty Scheffler dominate Quail Hollow.
I think the reason for that is because McIlroy is kind of this flawed hero, though, right? Like, he's had all those years of not being able to get over the line at the Masters, and people were so invested in the comeback. He had that chance to win it in 2011, completely threw it away, and everyone was kind of like, I want to see that happen. Every year he turns up, he fails, and that makes it more exciting. Whereas Scotty, since he started winning, hasn't really failed. Like, his failure is like finishing 8th or something. Like, so people kind of get bored of that dominance. And it wasn't like Tiger Woods, who was this new kind of, he was the face of Nike, and he was kind of like the next thing after Michael Jordan and all these sort of things. He was changing the landscape of golf. He was just a slightly different situation. I think that changes again if he just keeps going, because he's not far away really from what Tiger was doing, right? Like, I know Tiger's Tiger, and it doesn't matter what Scotty does, there will always be people that just say Tiger was far better, and I think he probably was. But it's interesting, then, like, you hear like people discussions now, and they're sort of saying, what was Tiger Woods really beating when he was that dominant compared to what Scotty Scheffler has to beat now? And that's always really hard to tell, isn't it? Skipping generations, because it's like, well, actually, Tiger Woods had to beat Phil Mickelson all the time. He was beating, David Duval and people like that, who we just don't have the memory of how good they were at the time. And Davis Love III and David Toms and all these names of people that we just don't really think about. Podrick Harrington, all of those guys. Vijay Singh, I know he had obviously a breakout year. Like, he had to constantly beat those, and that's probably the same as beating Justin Thomas and Patrick Cantlay and Jordan Spieth and all these sort of things, right? So I think it's basically the same situation. I think actually the game of golf is just easier than it was when Tiger Woods is dominant. I think the skill of hitting these shots that Scotty Scheffler hits versus when Tiger Woods did it with a old technology of a club, I think that's the argument more than the players that they had to play against. I think Tiger was dominant with a driver head that was that big, as opposed to Scotty Scheffler having a one that's that big. I think that's the difference, right? And the wedges and all the advancements there. But I don't know what your thoughts are, whether what the gap is between those two and what they have to be.
I mean, in a way, the fact that Tiger hit a ball 320 and literally never missed a putt. Like, every time I watch Tiger, I mean, the 2008 U.S. Open's perfect example. I bet you 95% of the people at Torrey Pines knew Tiger was going to make that birdie putt.
Yeah, he had that extra gear, didn't he? Like he was able to will the ball in the hole in the same way Jordan was able to will it into a net and all these sort of things, right? Like when it matters, these clutch people turn up, and I don't think we have that same feeling that we don't think Scottie Scheffler's just automatically going to make a putt. But I do have the feeling that Scottie Scheffler's going to hit up and get out to a ball and hit a good shot. Like I do think he's going to find a fairway. So there's different ways to look at it. I don't think he's quite there yet in terms of like we can compare the two because it's still not quite as long as Tiger was doing it, even with all the injuries. And if Tiger stayed fit for his whole career, he probably would have had another 5-6 majors by now. But it's certainly an interesting case study, and I think it's good for golf. I think golf needs that type of player, and it was Rory McIlroy earlier in the season, and very quickly it isn't anymore. And I think that's because Scottie Scheffler's come back and been so dominant, and he finds it hard to sort of keep pace with him when he's at his best.
And I think the question with Scottie Scheffler is, can he win on a U.S. Open? Because seemingly the best golfer is simple. Can you win a U.S. Open? I mean, the question with before Tom Watson won in '82, could you win a U.S. Open? Because Tom could win Augusta, could win Open championships. Can the best golfers win the biggest prize in golf?
Yeah. Yeah, and that will be answered in the next couple of years because if he doesn't do it in the next couple of years, you then sort of look at it and think, well, it's going to keep catching him out. Everyone's going to have one. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau, everyone's going to say that he can't win an Open Championship. I'm not quite willing to go that far, but everyone will say he's not capable of doing that. Scottie's ticked off Augusta. He's ticked off the PGA Championship. I've never had any doubts about the PGA. I don't really have a doubt about the US Open. I think he will win one at some point. But Oakmont is certainly... It's tough.
And I mean, it'd be fitting for Scottie if his U.S. Open win came at this hologram.
The hilarious thing about Scottie Scheffler, though, is that he was like a couple of shots back after round one here as an amateur in 2016. He shot one under par on the first day and then missed the cut. So he's already got it in his head that he knew he could navigate that course for at least one round. So I think he's probably going to be okay, and that's not good for the rest of the field if he feels good.
So here's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned guys winning majors. How about the best player? And we're going to do this because Tom's in the UK, I'm in the US. Best European player that beat Tom will answer, and then best American, and I will answer never to win a major.
So I think, and there's a couple of ways I can go about this. I think the first name that's going to come to people's minds at the moment is like Tommy Fleetwood, because it's a recency bias and it's a, he's just always there or there. I think the answer is Colin Montgomery. He was unbelievable, and I don't think people really, truly... I mean, he won the Order of Merit on the European Tour like 7 years in a row or something ridiculous like that. He was just the most automatic player. He's in the World Hall of Fame. He's got he's finished runner-up in three of the different majors. The worst performance he ever did was 8th at the Masters. He had 3 second-place finishes in the US Open. So I think the answer is him. He lost in the playoff to Ernie Els in 1994, and he lost in the playoff to Steve Elkinson at the PGA Championship as well. Then the contenders, I guess, behind him are like 2 players that got to world number 1, Lee Westwood and Luke Donald. Right? They were really good golfers that couldn't get over the line in majors. My answer is Colin Montgomery. The only caveat to that is he didn't do an awful lot of his winning on the PGA Tour. He didn't win the PGA Tour. He goes straight to the majors and played great, right? But he was very much a European Tour player, and he stayed there until the kind of majors. So that's the only caveat, is like we didn't really see him test himself against the PGA in the same way that like Donald and Westwood did. But just for the pure amount of chances that he had, is Colin Montgomery.
By the way, that 94 US Open playoff was at Oakmont.
Yeah, absolutely. Very topical that it's him this week.
Yeah, Monty was third in a couple US Opens, 92 and 94 for flop, and seemingly at the Ryder Cup, Colin Montgomery was playing every single session for the European squad.
Yeah. And then the joke of it was he went straight out onto the senior tour and won 3 majors. He beat Tom Watson in his first one. So back-to-back PGA Championship. So he's fine once he got out with the old men. But tough really. I think because he was relatively unlikable, people forget kind of how good he was. But definitely the best player I think about a major.
Yeah. By the way, Colin doubled the 18th at Oakmont in 06. Otherwise, he might have won.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the fairway, if my memory serves.
Your memory would be better than mine.
Actually, it wasn't Oakmont. It was Wingfoot 2006. Thank you.
Yeah, because I was 1 year old at 94 US Open. So, I wouldn't be the person to ask.
Again, best American. I mean, today, it's hard not to say Patrick Cantlay. Whether you like him or not, I mean, maybe Patrick Cantlay needs to show more positive energy. Maybe he needs, I don't know, like Patrick Cantlay needs to get the positive mojo like his mate, Xander Schauffele, because Xander's got a couple majors. But all time, how about Harry Cooper? How about 30 PGA Tour wins? 4 runner-up titles in major, and really the best. I mean, way before I am, but probably the best American player never to win a major. How does a guy win 30 PGA Tour events but never a major? That doesn't seem right.
No, you think he'd stumble into one eventually, wouldn't you? I mean, I can't comment on Harry Cooper's mental fortitude in the final round of majors because I wasn't even thought of, and my parents weren't either at this point. But
and by the way, unlike a few guys, there wouldn't be a pace of play issue with Harry Cooper, known as Light Horse Harry Cooper.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Otherwise, Patrick Cantlay and Bryson DeChambeau would take 20 hours to complete a round.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I think Cooper does, like, by the numbers, go down generally as the kind of best one without one, right? In America, but like, who would be, if you could think of a player like in the more modern era of the PGA that hasn't won a major, who would be the one American for you that kind of stands out?
Probably Cantlay.
Yeah, I think about Steve Stricker. I think about Matt Kuchar. The difference kind of with Stricker is I don't ever really remember him feeling like he was going to win one either. Like he won kind of like 12 times on the PGA Tour, and he was always up there, very consistent, right? But it never felt like we were going into a major and it was like, oh, Steve Stricker's going to win this one. Like, I don't think we had that. I think Matt Kuchar had a couple. I mean, he did finish second in the 98 PGA, Steve Stricker, but I vividly remember, Kuchar having a couple of chances. He had that chance, obviously, at Birkdale when Spieth took 4 hours to hit the ball from the Titleist track at Birkdale in the Open Championship. He had a couple of chances at Augusta. And look, Stricker was like tied for lead with VJ at the 98 PGA Championship, so he did have chances. But I think it's probably someone like Kuchar in the modern day.
I mean, forever everybody asked whether or not Phil Mickelson would ever win a major.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good point, that, Dylan, because I think we come back to that a lot. Is that we were so it was always like a best player at a major. Is he ever going to do one? And I think, what did he get to, like? He was like 34 or 35 by the time he won at Augusta for the first time. He was in his mid-30s, right? And but we talk about like Patrick Cantlay like he's never going to win one, which is ridiculous. Like he could go on and win another 6, right? Like Mickelson wouldn't have done it. Like, won however many majors he won. So, like, this idea that we always deal in absolutes, like before Xander won 2 last year, it's like, oh, is he ever going to win one? We get so kind of caught up in it. Like when Rory has 15 chances at Augusta and doesn't win one, you do question whether he's ever going to win an Augusta, but you don't question whether he's going to win a major again. So yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities for Cantlay in the next kind of decade to win one. And poor old Harry Cooper hasn't got the chance to right that wrong. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Cantlay does do it. He should take something from the fact that Xander did it.
I mean, and I feel like they're all less talent in golfers who've won majors. I mean, of course,
Jason
when the
Duffy, Ben Curtis, won majors. Todd Hamilton,
Sean McKeel.
Like, and that's the thing, right? Is that everyone sort of uses the barometer of majors as this like career defining thing, which they should. But Keegan Bradley is not a better golfer than Patrick Cantlay over the history of his career, but he's won a major, so he's probably had a better career.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, for that matter, is Martin Kaymer a better golfer than Tommy Fleetwood?
Yeah, like, that's a really good like comparison. Like, they both got to upper echelons of the game, on both very European sort of tour minded at the peak of their career, both played in Ryder Cups. It's really a good comp. I think Martin Kaymer is absolute best. There's probably still obviously he has won the Players and the US Open was it in the same year, but like, so I think at his best we have to just give him the edge. But yeah, like you say, like Fleetwood, I mean, every year comes out and performs well on the PGA Tour, he just doesn't win. Yeah, he's not a better player, but he is certainly probably got a bit more guts about him. I think the thing with Kaymer was always that he changed his game a lot. He tinkered his game. He changed his swing just to try and win Augusta and those sort of things. He got his own head, so he'd have like complete drops off of form. But Fleetwood's just so ultra consistent. It's just a mental issue with him. I think that's the difference between those two.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe Fleetwood will put together a Sunday like he did in 2018.
That's what he's going to have to do, I think, to win one. Like, I think unless he gets over the line in a PGA Tour event first and just gets his monkey off his back, like he's going to.
What's Fleetwood doing at the Canadian Open?
Yeah, I mean, what? It's not great, is it? Let's have a look. The cup?
That didn't happen. Actually, I'm not sure Fleetwood's playing this week. Yeah, you're right.
The week off, right?
Yeah, you're right. Fleetwood not playing. Never mind.
But didn't he? He was like sort of in the mix last week, and then just disappeared. That's just his favorite thing to do. He just kind of threatens to do it, and then just disappears. Like at the Memorial, he felt like he was going to get in the mix, didn't. Charles Schwab didn't quite get there. Finishes fourth at the Tree. Never had a chance to win. Like, it's just so weird.
Honestly, maybe Fleetwood's too nice a guy. That's just me.
I just think he's got this like one skill set. Like, he's an amazing iron player, and I think that covers up a lot of bad putting. Wedge games, obviously good. Driver's good, but like not to the level of Bryson driving and Rory. Like, I think that's the difference.
Maybe we'll get.
It won't be with my money, Dylan. That's the one thing I will tell you is if Fleetwood does win this week, then fine. I'd love to be wrong. Nice guy, as you say. Very popular winner if he does it. I won't be cheering on Sunday financially for Tommy Fleetwood. I might be cheering for him personally if mine don't have a chance, but.
Same thing like we were all doing for Roy at Augusta. Like, even if we didn't have Roy bets, I don't think anybody mind.
I mean, I was cheering for Bryson because I'm that kind of guy that puts money first. But it's tough.
I know somebody who would have wanted Justin Rose to win the playoff.
No, definitely me. Yeah, 100%. That
No,
was
no, I mean financially.
yeah, both. So yeah.
Okay, well, perfect segue. How about bets for
Yeah.
the 125th U.S. Open? Don't
Yeah.
tell me you're one and done.
Okay.
You're done just yet.
Okay. I think this is probably one of the tougher majors we've had to bet in a while. I want to bet Sepp Straka. I just think he's gonna keep himself in play all the time. He's the sort of person I could see sort of plodding himself around the golf course and then just having a chance on Sunday. And if he does get that chance, I trust him. He's just been so disappointing in the majors this year. I'm slightly put off. So he was kind of like first in mind and looked like a big price. Sam Burns is playing well now. I think that's an interesting one. I don't envision him as a kind of US Open winner, but I do sort of see him coming to the forum on his majors soon. And then I'm finding it very hard. And he's not going to be my one and done this week because I don't want to be like a broken record. But I'm finding it very hard to get away from Bryson DeChambeau again. Like, how do we ignore the fact that Bryson finished 15th here before he even had a Corn Ferry Tour win? He finished 15th here. He's 9th going into the final round. And then this is a guy that's won 2 of the last 5 US Opens. I don't know how we keep. I don't know. I mean, I can't keep doing it. It can't keep being my one and done. Otherwise, you won't bring me on there anymore because it'll be like a broken record. But when Rory's not at his best, how do we not elevate Bryson again in this? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I was looking at Shane Lowry again because of how well he played here, how well he is generally playing. But he's just going to let you down, isn't he? Like Lowry's going to let you down. I think Sam Burns will probably blow out and shoot 80 on one of the days. So I don't feel particularly confident about either of those two. They're just on the shortlist. So I think really over down the board, it's Sepp Straka that captures the eye just because of how well he's playing at 50-1.
Honestly, I feel like Sam Burns either plays well in Texas or Florida. And if you look at Burns's results, I mean, Byron Nelson, where was that event?
Yeah.
Texas. If you look at...
he's playing well in Canada. That's the one thing I would say all this week. It's not going to quite get over the line, I don't think. I think my friend Ryan Fox is hopefully going to do that. But yeah, it's Burns has had a kind of, this was the closest he got, right? Like he finished 9th in the US Open last year. So he was 32nd and 27th 2 years before that. He was 7th going into the final round 3 years ago. So I think actually this is the major that he's shown the most in. It's just whether it's enough. I don't really consider him this kind of foolproof major player yet, despite how good he is at winning regular events.
You're right on Straka, although for whatever reason, Straka's not been great in majors, but if he could just steady Eddie, he's got that steady demeanor. He'll take a Paul when need be. I have no idea what to expect from this guy because I have no idea what happened to Cam Young, but the guts he showed winning that playoff against Fowler on Monday told me something. Cam Young can absolutely put a driver. The problem is, will it end up in a church tree bunker or the middle of the fairway?
Yeah, he's showed a bit of life, hasn't he? Recently, Cam Young. He was inside the top 20 at the Texas Open. Sorry, he was 7th at the Truist, 25th last time out of the Memorial. So he's showing a little bit. I just have a hard time thinking he's playing well enough to win a major. That's the difficulty. Like if we have question marks about Sepp Straka, who's got like 3 top 5 in his last 8 starts or something ridiculous. Like, what are we thinking about Cam Young?
Yeah, it seems like one of 2 or 3 guys is winning. It seems like one of like 3 guys is winning everything this year. Either Scheffler, McIlroy, Sepp, or Ben Griffin.
Yeah, I mean Ben Griffin will backdoor a nice top 20 here to get his major career going. I mean, I wouldn't expect him to contend, but he's playing really well. I'll tell you one player, Dylan, that keeps cropping up in my mind for the US Open, and I don't know quite whether he's got the required skill set to win it here specifically. But Russell Henley's playing really well, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's playing really well. And the last 4 US Opens, 13th miscut, 14th, and 7th. He's a good US Open player. Obviously had that chance, didn't he, at Torrey Pines, where John Rahm kind of come out on top in the end. I have a hard time envisioning him winning at Oakmont, but he probably deserves a second look.
Yeah. And played well, won the API, and then Finn played well at the Memorial, so he can play well in these difficult golf courses. I don't know if this guy will ever win a U.S. Open, but the way Justin Thomas has played this year, would it surprise anyone?
No, I think when I think about Justin Thomas, I don't think about him as a US Open golfer, right? I know he's finished 8th in one. That was in 2020, right? But that was kind of the wing foot where he that was wing foot, right? 2020,
yeah.
Where he could, where Bryson was obviously knocking it all the way around the park and won. Matthew Wolff finished second in that US Open, like a completely different style of US Open to really what we would see typically. I find it hard to think that Justin Thomas wins the US Open, but he is playing very well. And this is a difficulty you've got now. Everyone we're kind of talking about here, it's like, is he good enough to win a tournament? Yes. Is he playing well? Yes. Can they win a US Open? Probably not. So what does that leave us with? That's the magic question. That's where we're going to get to with our one and dones.
Yeah. Well, we've got two subjects left, and you can lead us into both of them.
Yeah.
You know what we haven't done yet?
Yeah. Do we want to go trivia first or one and done? What do we want to do?
Trivia, please.
Let's do trivia. So, I want you to name the only player to lose 3 US Opens in a playoff.
How far back do I have to go?
A fair way. It's a big name. It's not gonna surprise you, the name, but
Jack.
It's not Jack. It's on that right line of thinking, though.
Oh gosh, I think I have a feeling. Oh no, Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer's lost 3 US Open playoffs in his career. Luckily, he won one in 1960
at Cherry Hill in Denver with that final round 65.
He lost 3 US Opens, and back then they were 18-hole playoffs as well.
Oh no!
So he had to play 18 holes, losing 3 times. Not one of these ones where like you just lose it in 2 or 3 holes and go home again. In 1963, he had to play 18 holes. He shot 76 in that playoff. In 1962, so a year earlier, 74, lost by 3 shots to Jack Nicklaus. 1966, a few years later, 3 over to Billy Casper's 1 under.
At the Oakmont Club.
That is unbelievable to have to play. He's essentially played 54 holes of playoffs and lost all of them, and it's heartbreaking for someone of that ilk. I mean, luckily, as I said, he won that kind of 1960 US Open, but I mean, man, like really tough.
And the bad thing about the 62 US Open, Arnold Palmer was from the Pittsburgh area. Palmer was from the Pittsburgh area. So losing it, and funny thing, on the first playoff hole, Arnold hit his drive right down the pipe, and then Jack Nicklaus was announced. The crowd boos the Golden Bear. And then Jack Nicklaus hit his drive about 25 yards past Palmer, who was like the longest hitter of his era. And then after that, the playoff was over when it started. I mean, Arnold Palmer losing a playoff at home was a gut punch.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the last player, the last US Open champion that had to go through 36-hole qualifying before winning the tournament? It's in the 2000s.
Would it be Lucas Glover in 2009?
Yep, Lucas Glover was the last champion that had to come through the 36 holes of qualifying to make it. So who would be the candidates this year? Who's had to go through 36 holes to make it to
Cam Young.
There you go. You said Cam Young. Are we looking at a Cam Young Lucas Glover situation?
Mark Leachman for you Live Golf fans.
Yeah, I mean, if John Peterson gets in off the alternate list, he's gone from selling garages to coming through 36 holes of qualifying and then winning the US Open. That would be a hell of a story. He played really well at the Olympic Club in when Webb Simpson won. So yeah, that would be an interesting one as well. Shout out to John Peterson, lovely guy. But yeah, those were the trivia questions I had for you, Dylan.
Say it again.
I didn't manage to catch you out this year, which is disappointing.
Okay, you know what time it is.
It is. It's that time. Who's going first? Who's putting their neck out on the line first for this US Open? You're going. Okay.
Yes. I think, well, it's kind of illegal that we can only use these guys 4 times a year because they're on the other two. But Bryson DeChambeau is going to say bye-bye at Oakmont.
You think Bryson's got it? So there's only one concern with Bryson, isn't there? And it's whether those irons are in shape.
Yeah, because Bryson can add some. I'm thinking this course will play a lot like 2020 Wingfoot. Same course redesigned with Gil Hands. Bryson's been absolutely hammering the ball. If he could just hit a few more approaches like he did at Pinehurst last year, I think Bryson can absolutely win.
No, I do. I really do. I mean, he's right up in the hunt at Live Golf Virginia this week. He is currently trailing Graham McDowell by 2 strokes at Live Golf Virginia.
Wow, talk about US Open. Graham McDowell won at Pebble.
Well, talk about the most famous player to never win a US Open. Phil Mickelson's also in second place, 1 shot ahead of Bryson DeChambeau. And splitting all of them is Anaban Lahiri. Joaquin Neiman also in contention, as he seems to be every single time they see it up on Live. But there's some throwbacks. Bubba Watson's up there in contention as well. So it's a really interesting tournament over there on Live Golf Virginia, actually. If I hadn't used Bryson as much as I have this season, Dylan, I would be right there with you. I think the 15th place finish here in 2016 tells a lot. I think, the two USA. If we think about, Scotty Scheffler was kind of like the Augusta master for the last few years. Rory McIlroy was going to be the guy that was fancied at every major until he got that Grand Slam or got the monkey off his back of winning a major again. Bryson's this US Open hero, right? Like realistically, I mean, I know he's obviously got just the 2 wins, but 20th the year before that, 26th a couple of years before that, 25th, 15th at Oakmont last time. Really likes the US Open. It's because that asset of the driver, as we said, do we want someone longer off the tee or not? There's your answer with Bryson DeChambeau.
So who's your one and done?
I was encouraged enough at the PJ Championship, Dylan, by Jon Rahm. He obviously won at Torrey Pines, which I think the one concern is like Torrey Pines is just the perfect place for him to have the US Open, right? But since then, he's been 12th and 10th in the US Open. When he was 12th, he was 3rd at the 36 hole mark and the 54 hole mark. When he was 10th 2 years ago, shot a final around 65 to kind of leaderboard. He's got a 3rd place finish as well. in the US Open. So he's been really consistent. And then when you go back to 2016, who's the low amateur? Jon Rahm.
Yeah.
Tied 23rd that week, which again, like that's not enough to say that he can win it on its own. But when you consider how well he's been playing on Live, how he showed up in the PGA Championship, and what I really like, if you look at the final 3 rounds for Jon Rahm at Oakmont, so he opened with 76, put himself right on the back foot as an amateur, all new to him. He finished 69, 72, and 70. Dustin Johnson shot 69, 71, 69. Just to give an idea of kind of how difficult that test was, DJ only beaten by 2 strokes over the final 3 rounds. It was just that Thursday round then that really caught him out. So Jon Rahm, for me, would be my one and done.
I don't think I'd be surprised if Rahm won. I mean, just whether or not Rahm can avoid a blow-up.
Yeah, and look, there's been question marks about him since he went to Live, but I think they're blown out of proportion. I think he finished 45th at the Masters in 2024 since going to Live, but he was a defending champion. We see defending champions struggle all the time. He missed the cut in the PGA Championship. That can happen to anyone at any tournament. We've just seen plenty of people miss the cut of the PGA Championship last time this year as well. And then he finishes 7th at the Open Championship, right, at the end of the year. And no, he wasn't, really in contention to win or anything like that. But I mean, 7th place is still 7th place in a major. It's still eye-catching. Still shot 68 in really tough conditions. So whilst he was nowhere near Xander Schauffele and he was never going to win, that was really only kind of Billy Horschel, Justin Rose, and slightly for a little while Tristan Lawrence kind of making waves there. And then he's played so well at the PGA Championship. Again, you're going to see kind of 8th place on the record, but we know he was the only one that gave Scott Scheffler a run. He just blew up over those final few holes because he was just trying to push too hard. 14th for the Masters, go right back to playing well there again this year. So I think just with that encouragement that I saw from him at the PGA Championship, I'm willing to bet that Jon Rahm comes good again.
Well, I hope one of our guys is lifting the U.S. Open trophy on Father's Day.
Absolutely. We've got a good record in these sort of things, Dylan. We normally, between the two of us, we can pick one. I feel really good that you picked Bryson DeChambeau because 1, it means I didn't have to, and 2 means it gives us 2 chances to win. I could very easily see myself just backing Jon Rahm and Bryson next week and hoping for the best and not, going for these kind of 50, 60 to 1 shots that I'm not 100% keen on. But I do think Sepp Straka and Russell Henley are kind of decent long shots if you're looking for that sort of thing.
I concur with Seth. So thanks for hopping on, Tom, and we'll be watching plenty of golf, not just in Virginia or Canada, but at Oakmont next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dylan, for having me on, as ever.